rock-solid commitment. A U.S. congressional delegation arrives in Taiwan, infuriating China. Booming business. Global chip heavyweight TSMC announces massive expansion plans. Strength in numbers. How coming together can help fight Taiwan's growing dementia epidemic. And Malala is married. The Nobel Peace Laureate announces her nuptials on social media. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Yin Khvat. A delegation of 13 representatives, including lawmakers and military officials, are visiting Taiwan. Their U.S. military plane touched down in Taipei unannounced on Tuesday evening. In response, China launched combat exercises across the strait and admonished the U.S. for interfering in what it calls its internal affairs. Officials remain tight-lipped on the details of the visit, but Premier Su Tseng-chang said Taiwan was grateful for U.S. support. Rick Glowett has the story.
A U.S. Navy plane touches down at Taipei's Songshan airport on Tuesday night. On board are U.S. lawmakers and military officials making an unannounced visit to meet Taiwan's president. But Taiwan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs is remaining tight-lipped about exactly who was on board and why they are visiting Taiwan.
As the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we have provided administrative support for the delegation through Taiwan and U.S. coordination, and in line with the wishes of the delegation members, more information about the visit may be released at an appropriate timing.
On cue, an angry response from Beijing, calling the visit a rude interference in China's internal affairs. And overnight, China announced it would be conducting joint combat drills nearby, aimed to counter what it calls Taiwan's secession. American military planes landing in Taiwan are considered a major provocation for the Chinese Communist Party, which claims the country as its own despite never having ruled it. In June, a delegation of US senators bringing news of a large vaccine donation also arrived by military plane, much to the ire of Beijing. But the US is by far Taiwan's most important ally, crucial to acquiring the weapons the country needs to counter the China threat.
我们很谢谢美国在各种场合为台湾发声，我们也希望两边关系经由互动都有利于各方面的互助合作。
This friendship is critical to Taiwan and its ability to defend itself. And another high-profile visit in the face of China's protest is a sign that the US is making good on what it calls a rock-solid commitment to Taiwan. Patrick Chen and Rick Glowett for TaiwanPlus.
Satellite imagery has revealed that China's new high-tech aircraft carrier, the Type 003, could launch in early 2022. That's according to the US-based Center for Strategic and International Studies. The new carrier is expected to come installed with an electromagnetic launch system, similar to those developed for the US Navy's Ford class. It will enable China to launch fixed-wing aircraft that carry heavier payloads and more fuel. Experts at CSIS's China project say the Type 003 will be the Chinese military's first foray into a modern aircraft carrier. On Tuesday, Taiwan's Defense Ministry released its biennial white paper highlighting rising cross-strait tensions, as well as Beijing's new grey zone tactics, which the Defense Ministry says are designed to conquer Taiwan without a shot being fired. The defense report game-planned what it sees as China's multi-dimensional strategy to take Taiwan without the need to invade. A so-called hybrid war would combine a threat of Beijing's formidable military power together with a cognitive and cyber war. Lennon Chang is a senior lecturer at Australia's Monash University, specialising in cybersecurity and disinformation. He said the hybrid strategy is all about causing chaos in Taiwan and discrediting the government.
The very first cyber war people will refer to will be the war in the cyber war in Estonia. What happens in Estonia was that the internet was shut down many days, and all the critical infrastructures taken down are not working. For example, if you can't withdraw money for a week, when you drive on the road, all the traffic light has been shut down, create a mess of the traffic. If we have the nuclear plant restarted, there might be a target for potential criminals with political intention. So these are the critical infrastructure that we are talking about. And once these critical infrastructure are under attack, they will definitely have create a lot of trouble to the people in Taiwan. And people will start to criticize the government, distrust the government, then of course there will be a mess in Taiwan.
How then does the cognitive warfare come into play? Can you take us through those steps?
For example, the situation might be that there'll be a planning of political war to begin with. They start to build to create a mess within Taiwan and create a distrust between people in Taiwan using all this kind of disinformation campaign or fake news or information operation. And then they create a mess in difficulty or inconvenience in people's everyday life, so that people start to say the government is not doing a good job, that we should change the government, or we should re-elect a new government that can help us to rebuild our everyday life. Some people will start to provide the opinion that, we might need to seek help from certain countries. They might be able to provide us more water, provide us more energies, provide us a secure and safer life. When people start to believe in these kind of messages, that's where the hybrid war will go into a next step. The key issue will still be how Taiwanese people see this kind of situation. A key thing here is not about the war. The key thing, I think, the message that we need to give out here is how we raise people's awareness on this, how we see that there's a blur line between crime and war, how we start to really take into consideration the seriousness of this disinformation campaign, information operation, and how it links to the potential war in the future.
Taiwan, is it well placed to fight the cyber campaigns, a potential cyber war from China?
Taiwan in the past has built up very good ideas or system in countering this kind of political warfare. But now, of course, technology has changed everything. Technology through the internet, it's very difficult for us to really keep saying that 保密防谍人人有责 unless we really know who the enemies are.
Announcements of new plants in Taiwan and Japan mean TSMC looks set to retain its place as the leader of the world's semiconductor industry. James Chater has the details.
As a global chip shortage rolls on, Taiwanese semiconductor giant TSMC has formalized plans for a new plant in Taiwan's southern port city of Kaohsiung. Set to open in 2024, the factory will make advanced 7nm chips as well as 28nm semiconductors. Tuesday also brought a formal announcement that TSMC will partner with Sony to build another plant in Kumamoto in southern Japan. Plans for the $7 billion factory have been public since mid-October. It's also set to open in 2024 and will produce 22 and 28nm chips. TSMC said funding of the plant has received strong support from the Japanese government. Recently, a pandemic-driven chip shortage has caused supply bottlenecks for global manufacturers of everything, from vehicles, household appliances, and mobile phones. For many governments, the ability to make chips at home has become an issue of national security. Because of this, the Kumamoto plant was a central part of Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida's election campaign in October.
最先端半導体の製造をほぼ独占する台湾企業の日本進出が本日発表されました。これにより我が国の半導体産業の不可欠性と自立性が向上し、経済安全保障に大きく寄与することが期待されます。
TSMC is also building a $12 billion factory in the US state of Arizona in what was seen as a major win for the US. On Tuesday, the US Commerce Secretary reiterated the significance of domestic chip manufacturing.
I think what I've said, which is that the lack of domestic production in America of semiconductors poses not only an economic threat, a national security threat, and we need Congress, the House, to pass the CHIPS Act, or USICA, as quickly as possible so that we can get to the business of making more chips in America.
The places where chips are made may be becoming more diverse, but TSMC's cutting-edge know-how means Taiwan is unlikely to budge from the heart of global chip supply chains. James Rayner and James Chater for TaiwanPlus.
The Dalai Lama praised Taiwan's way of life and heritage in a speech to the Foreign Correspondents' Club in Japan. The 86-year-old Nobel Peace Prize laureate answered questions from his headquarters in Dharamsala in India via weblink. He was asked about a range of topics, including the situation of refugees, freedoms in Hong Kong, and whether Taiwan would share the same fate as Tibet under China. The Tibetan holy leader emphasized that he doesn't take political positions, but did say that China could learn from Taiwan.
I really found the heritage of Chinese tradition. I found in Taiwan, mainly China, too much politicized. So now Taiwan, since they really kept 1,000-year-old Chinese tradition, Chinese culture. So I feel mainland China and Taiwan, economically, Taiwan gets a lot of help from mainland China. And the culture, in Chinese culture, including Buddhism, I think mainland Chinese brothers, sisters can learn a lot from Taiwanese brothers, sisters.
But when responding to a TaiwanPlus question at the press conference, the Tibetan holy leader explained why he was unlikely to visit Taiwan.
So in this moment, is the relation between mainland China and Taiwan. So I prefer remain here, India, peacefully. I do not want to involve some local political difficulties. But from here, through modern technology, I can communicate.
Average life expectancy dipped in many countries last year due to the coronavirus pandemic, according to research by the British Medical Journal. In 31 upper middle and high income countries, there was a combined total of 28.1 million excess years of life lost. The worst affected were Russia, Bulgaria, Lithuania, the US and Poland. But in Taiwan, New Zealand and Norway, life expectancy actually rose. No change in life expectancy was found in Denmark, Iceland and South Korea. Taiwan's Alzheimer's Disease Association says the country is facing a growing dementia epidemic, driven by a rapidly aging population. Pandemic-related restrictions on social contact have only exacerbated the situation. But as Bing Wang reports, local communities are coming together to help combat the disease.
Ever wondered why you often see groups of older people dancing together in Taiwan? Apart from being a great way to exercise and catch up on the latest gossip, dancing and other physical activities are proven to help improve cognitive function. It's an important weapon in the fight against dementia. According to the Taiwan Alzheimer's Disease Association, the number of dementia patients in Taiwan is growing rapidly. 8% of people aged 65 and older and 20% of people 80 years old show signs of dementia. Statistics from the country's national health insurance show the number of people getting medical treatment for dementia so far in 2021 is 279,000. compared with just 190,000 for the whole of 2016. Noticing the signs early is vital to improving the patient's outcomes. These include memory loss, a decline in problem-solving abilities, inability to perform basic tasks, lapses in judgment, and difficulties in visual and spatial awareness. To help, the government is promoting dementia-friendly communities that can do their part to both detect and treat the disease.
地方的伙伴，还有甚至我们的村里邻长、大楼保全，看我们长者怎么常常半夜就出去了哈，或者他怎么一天重复买了好多一样的卫生纸哈，那他就会把这样的一个观察到的警讯跟家属来做分享。那像这样都可以及早他去就医，然后去诊断。
60 dementia-friendly communities in 22 cities and counties have already been set up. In these communities, residents can go for strolls, talk with others, and receive all the help they need. Social interaction helps to stimulate the senses and improves cognitive ability. The pandemic has made it hard for everyone to connect with one another. For people with dementia, who are often confined to their own homes, it's even harder to develop those close bonds. But by coming together as tight-knit communities, we can all help to overcome the social stigma facing people with dementia and do our part to ensure no one needs to face this disease alone. Klein Wang and Bing Wang for TaiwanPlus.
Coming up, the UN warns of a humanitarian catastrophe in Afghanistan, and it's the children who are suffering the most. Details after the break. Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. Let's take a look at some of the news making the headlines around the world. At least 16 United Nations staff and dependents have been detained in the Ethiopian capital, Addis Ababa, amid reports of widespread arrests of ethnic Tigrayans. Ethiopia declared a state of emergency last week that allows the government to arbitrarily arrest anyone suspected of collaborating with a terrorist group. The Ethiopian parliament designated the Tigray People's Liberation Front as a terrorist group earlier this year. The World Food Programme says the number of people on the edge of famine has risen to 45 million in 43 countries. As Louise Watt reports, 60% of Afghanistan's population is suffering acute hunger, and the humanitarian crisis is getting worse.
4-month-old Mohammed lies in a hospital bed in Afghanistan's capital, Kabul. He is one of an increasing number of young children who are malnourished, as a worsening humanitarian crisis takes its toll on the most vulnerable. According to the charity Save the Children, more than 5 million children are now just one step away from famine.
Because since 2 months and 3 months, our malnutrition patient is increased day by day. When I ask the mother and father about all of complaint from the poverty and don't have foods.
The war-torn country has been in the grip of a worsening economic crisis since the withdrawal of US forces and the Taliban's takeover of power in August. The UN's World Food Programme is sounding the alarm.
Afghanistan Almost 23 million people are marching towards starvation. 8.7 million are on famine's door. 95% of the people don't have enough food. It's a crisis. It's a catastrophe.
A severe drought is one cause of the hunger. Another is that millions of Afghans have not received salaries for months. After the Taliban seized power, Western countries cut off direct financial assistance. On top of this, the Taliban government is unable to access billions of dollars in Afghan national reserves held abroad. The crisis is painfully apparent in children's wards across the country. At one hospital in Kandahar in the south, doctors say international aid groups have been scrambling to get food and medicine to the patients. But the dramatic jump in cases means supplies are running out fast.
They bring the medicine from outside, so that's not sufficient now for 6 months. It goes to 3 months or 4 months because the number is getting double.
With winter approaching, humanitarian groups say they are now racing against time to feed the hungry and save the lives of millions of children at risk. Bill Kong and Louise Watt for TaiwanPlus.
The watchdog Climate Action Tracker says the world is set for temperatures to rise 2.4 degrees Celsius this century, despite new COP26 pledges to tackle climate change. Global greenhouse gas emissions in 2030 will still be roughly twice as high as what's necessary to achieve the UN target of 1.5 degrees warming. The watchdog reported the most optimistic scenario would be warming of 1.8 degrees if all net zero pledges are fully implemented by 2030. Icebergs of toxic foam are coating the Yamuna River in India's capital, New Delhi. A major Hindu festival, which requires people to bathe in the river, is underway. As part of the holy ritual, devotees are washing themselves in the waters, which are regarded as holy, despite the obvious pollution. Activists say the toxic foam is the result of illegal dumping of industrial waste and untreated sewage. The capital city's water supply has also been affected by the pollution. Human rights activist Malala Yousafzai has surprised her followers by announcing she has gotten married. The Nobel Peace Prize laureate posted photos on Twitter and Instagram of her wedding to Asa Malik, who works for the Pakistan Cricket Board. She described the ceremony as a precious day in her life. The 24-year-old said the pair tied the knot in a Muslim marriage ceremony at her home in England. Malala was shot in the head in the Swat Valley region of Pakistan when she was just 15 years old by the Taliban, who opposed her campaign for girls' education. Now, at the heart of all art lies a story. Though their styles may differ, the masters of Western and East Asian art all share the ability to bring their worlds to life.
故事应该是许多主题的共同呈现，它具有叙述性，它具有说明性，它也具有记录的意义。
我们一般比较常见到的所谓故事，大概像一个绘本，就是一个很明显的一个故事性的图，它有很多不同章的画去组成一个故事。一般的绘画，它大概一个画面上是在谈一件事情，在谈一个观念，或者谈一个艺术家的想法。那如果谈一件事情的时候，它还有一个时间轴在那边做延伸的话，我们就把它形成一个故事性的这样的一个创作作品。
中西方在说明故事的手法，因艺术家、因表达的方式、因材料可能是不同的。比如说，在西方，布鲁格尔他在婚礼的场景，他表达的就是结婚，大家饮酒欢乐的一种场面。他在说一段故事，所以在表达的方式，他的差异立基的都是人类的生活经验。当然，因为文化的不同，跟我们所看到的婚礼的场面是不一样的。在故宫非常有名的一件作品叫做《清明上河图》。
《清明上河图》有很多的版本，好，那故宫介绍的这个是清苑本，不过它其实是在描写北宋时候 那个京城。汴梁这个地方的一个自然山川，还有它的一些人文的景观。不过到清朝这个版本，我们大概可以看到，当时清朝的一个整个社会的状态。他们有很多的休闲方式，很多的一些工作的方式，跟我们现在其实还有一些相关哈。那所以是一个比较入世的这种风格，这也是在中国绘画里面比较少见的作品。
他所描绘的，其实就是当时候日常生活的一些景致，艺术家把它凝注在那个点，所以故事会是现在艺术创作很重要的一点，因为故事会把人的感觉超越时空，具体的连结，然后来引发更多的想象。可是，在艺术创作的时候，往往必须要把这些经验能够筛选，能够重组，能够凝聚，能够强调主题，来形成一个故事性。所以有所谓的起、承、转、合，在做好的一些布局。
Thanks for watching TaiwanPlus News. I'm Yin Khvat. Stay safe and see you next time.